Welcome to Snape Chat, the voice of the Snapedom, the podcast where we discuss all things Snape, always. Join us as we dive into the world of the bravest man we ever knew in art, fanfic, meta, and more, obviously. This is Snape-centric with episode 24, and I've got a few things for you. First, I speak with the most excellent author, Grooot, about her writing, the patriarchy, and more. Then I talk to Smiling for Money and Sev Snapes about their project, the Snapedom Awards, celebrating the creativity and general awesomeness of the Snape fandom. There's also a PSA by our own Megs about the dangers of purity culture. Enjoy the show. This is Snape-centric, and I'm here with the author, Grooot.
Hello.
And yeah, we're going to have a nice chat. Okay, tell us a bit about yourself.
So obviously I'm Australian, which is, I think, means the best thing about writing fanon for Harry Potter means that I never have to worry about people picking my work because Australians and British use very similar spellings. So I don't forget my U's in colour and honour and all that type of stuff. I think I'm pretty late-ish to sort of fanon. I only really started reading and getting into it around 2016. And I used to read a lot of work by Celery Thesis, who is an amazing author. And she was very nice and supportive, and we kind of were chatting in the comments, and she kind of got me into writing my own stuff. So it's obviously not my day job. I don't do anything creative in my day job, but it's kind of like a creative outlet, I guess. I like writing. I can't imagine I would ever make any money off writing, but I do like sharing it with people, and fanon is such a really great way that you can get your stuff out there and people can kind of enjoy it.
How and when did you become a Snape fan?
I think when I first started in the Harry Potter world, obviously I was a lot younger, and I was really into Hermione, because there's hardly any women in the Harry Potter universe that are more than sort of a one-note thing, and I really liked her. But then as I got older and I reread the series, there was a lot about Snape that kind of rang true to me as an adult. He always seems to be like laughing at people when they do stupid things. He makes pretty cutting comments, which I appreciate a lot. And generally the whole time just to be the only person who seems to be very much aware of what's happening and irritated the whole time, irritated by the stupidity of others, irritated by people making silly decisions. And yeah, like as an adult, I thought, you know what, that really appeals to me, this character. And even though he's quite horrible in a lot of ways, I have to keep telling myself that the book is written from Harry Potter's point of view. So when I was a kid, I thought a lot of adults were quite horrible. But then looking back, I'm like, actually, I was quite horrible and they were just barely putting up with me. So yeah, I think, and I don't know whether it was by design or by accident that J.K. Rowling wrote a pretty interesting character. But yeah, and that's why I like him.
Is that what you like best about him as well?
I think I like his moral ambiguity as well. And I think I like the way that J.K. Rowling, I felt she really wanted to sell him as the bad guy in it and put other people as front and center as the good people. But again, I don't know whether she did it by design or not. But then as the book progresses and it presented what was obviously a poverty, background of poverty, a background at least of some family violence, whether it was directed at him or not, definitely neglect in what he was wearing and that type of stuff, and his experiences at school and bullying and that type of stuff. Whereas those who were played for as the like heroes of the story, like James and Sirius and Lupin, were actually pretty selfish and horrible. And I think I really appreciated too that for a lot of people coming from type of backgrounds that it makes them kind of like hard or the type of person they are, and that's not really explored in the book to any type of depth. But fanon does, obviously. So he's a character that you can actually take in a lot of different ways.
How long have you been a writer?
Oh well, I would love to call myself a writer. I guess I write, so I'm a writer. I always really liked creative writing pretty much my whole life, and I have spent a lot of time, but usually I just write stories for myself, the type of person that writes little stories and puts them aside in for those people who are young enough not to remember, a folder on your computer that no one ever looks at or reads. And like I said, when I came to Fennon, I thought, well, hang on, this is a really interesting way that you can sort of share your writing with other people. And, for good or for bad, people either like it or they don't. And you can almost get almost like instant gratification whether somebody likes it or not, because you get the comments and the kudos. And the other thing I like about it, it's a really interesting and fascinating community, and you can meet other amazingly talented people. And it was only when I got into Fennon and I started reading it that I thought, wait a minute, this writing is way above the quality of books that I am paying to read, and art that I'm paying to look at, or art that I'm buying and that type of stuff. And people are just giving it away for free because of love. So I thought, why not join that? What a perfect way to express myself.
Let's talk a little bit about your writing process. How do you come up with your overall ideas?
I kind of, some of it is based on things that are annoying me at the time. So when I started in Fennon, I don't know whether it was some politics at the time. I think it definitely was. There was a lot of movement going back, as we've seen, as women grow more sort of emancipated and demanding more equality in the world, and people of colour, there was a lot of pushback from people in power, aka cis white men. And that really prompted me to want to write something that reflected that. And I think at the time I'd been reading a lot of quote unquote marriage law fics, and the thing that frustrated me about it was a lot of non-consensual sex in it, and women being forced into basically being raped and stuff like that. And although people put it like dubious consent or whatever. And I thought, oh my, I just want to read something where it's the marriage law, but it's kind of feminist. So that's what prompted me to write my first ever fic, which was The Not So Little Problem. And then after I did that, I again was kind of more interested in exploring, which again, I'm exploring the story I'm writing at the moment, which is, well, can you ever change a culture by killing Voldemort, right? They kill Voldemort and everyone's like, and that's the end of that. But there's really no thinking into, well, Voldemort only grew to power because of people like Lucius, etc., around him, because of the centuries-old blood purity things around. Like, it's very difficult for one person to change everybody's point of view to make them into something like that, and then to have and then Voldemort died and it was the end and everyone was good. So that's why I sort of was a bit more interested in writing.
Oh, yes.
I think the Ministry of Snakes series and that sort of stuff. And then after that, I really got into a bit of the prompt fests, which were the Snape Fest and other ones like that, where people put prompts and you can leverage from there. And that's where sort of my Galleons one came from. But again, as you probably know from reading my stories, every time I write a story, I like to put feminist themes in there. I like to explore women being powerful, women being friends, and people commenting on the culture in a way that suggests that they're not happy with it or they try and change it. Kind of one of my favorite ones to do, which was the Snape Fest, was where someone, I can't even remember who it was now, prompted about Snape being a house elf. And that made me laugh so much when I saw that prompt that I wanted to write that one. And again, I wrote Hogwarts a Haunting, and I couldn't resist it. Again, I put a lot of commentary in there about house elves themselves because of the way that they were described in the book. I don't know whether JK wanted it to be an allegory on slavery, but if she did, it was very clumsy because it seemed to infer that people liked, that house elves liked being slaves, which, I mean, nil comment there except like outrageous and how dare you, and would only be something a white person could write and think that's fine. And then I think I'd read a lot of like beautiful baby stories, and then Hermione and Snape had like 400 children. It was happy and they're the best children ever and great. And I have 2 children and I know what having children is like. And I said to my witch, who we do a lot of collaborating, I said, I want to write a story. I want to write a story. And I'll put it in the Snape Fest, which is a very free one. You don't have to go on prompts. I said, I want to write a story about how horrible it would be to literally have a magical baby. And she said, and then I'll draw you some pictures. So then we put together Bringing Up Baby Board, which of course is Snape thinking it's going to be a wonderful experience, just like the Fanon about being a dad, and then actually being presented with the true horror of having a magical baby, which was really enjoyable and quite cathartic. I wrote one of my longest fics, Time Mutable and Mutable, because again, I like picking sort of tropes. So Time Turner is a great trope. Everybody likes writing that one. I wanted to explore the kind of opposite of, like, a lot of stories are Snape the mentor, Hermione the young impressionable person, but I wanted to flip that and go, well, what about if she was the mentor and he was the young impressionable person? But then write it in a way to challenge myself that I really wasn't allowed to change a lot of time per se. I mean, obviously I changed it because he was alive, but I wasn't allowed to change any of the history or what he did and what he didn't do and that type of stuff. So I quite enjoyed that, although I made a very stupid decision, which I only wrote about 9 of the chapters. And then I started posting, and that meant I had to write a chapter every week, and that was hectic. And I would never do that again. So the one I did at the moment, which I'm posting at the moment, P.S. I Love You, was definitely completed over 2 years before I started posting, because after COVID, nobody needs that type of stress in their life. And I think P.S. I Love You was prompted by a lot of, again, what's happening in the world and kind of like what happens after the fall of Voldemort when things aren't changed and everybody just goes back to the way it was. And then again, as per usual, boiling frog type of thing, one thing changes, another thing changes, another thing changes, and then everyone's back to where they were. Because at the end of the day, there's so many people that benefit from the existing power structures that it's difficult to make changes. So it was a long explanation for those stories.
I think that's great. I really enjoy all your stories, and you bring such a unique viewpoint to them.
Thank you. And I do like to laugh when I write. So as much as people say sometimes when they read my stuff, there's a little bit of angst in here. I'm like, yeah, but I try and make it funny as well, because life's not all about angst, right?
Right. How would you describe your personal writing style?
I think I talked about this in one of the comments. Two of the writers that really made a massive impact on me when I was growing up and reading. So I read a lot of Douglas Adams and a lot of Terry Pratchett. And Terry Pratchett particularly is a brilliant writer in terms of he creates a very interesting, fascinating story that's very funny with really rich characters, but he makes a lot of political statements in his writing. And you don't kind of notice them as you're reading them because you're sort of laughing and having a great time. And I think he's one of my most favorite authors, brilliant writing. And similarly with Douglas Adams, a lot of statements about the world and the way the world is and the way people are, but again, quite hilarious and a little bit offbeat. So I'd say they're probably the two writers that influenced me the most. I mean, it sounds a bit grandiose to say because they're amazing and very famous, but yeah, they were the people I would say that I would like to emulate in my writing.
How much detail do you go into when planning a story?
Like, it kind of depends on the story. So with the fest ones that are generally only about 10,000 words, I kind of just sort of have some main plot points figured out. Like, I'll say, okay, in this chapter, I'll bring out baby more. In this chapter, he's going to ask Hermione to be the mother. And in this chapter, the baby's going to be born. And then in this chapter, hijinks ensued as magical baby becomes horrific, but not really sort of fleshed out. I'm a bit of a stream of consciousness type writer. So although I have a vague idea of what's happening in the chapter, I'll just start the chapter and then I'll write it to the end of the chapter. I very rarely write a bit and then come back to it. That seems to work for me. I don't know how or why, but that's how I write.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I don't even remember writing it. Like I was saying to my witch, I read back on some of my time immutable. I was like, oh my God, I didn't even remember writing this. I think I had a young child at the time. My baby was quite young, so it was probably sleep deprived.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. When you get blocked, how do you break it?
I find the best way for me is to talk to other people about it. Like Gingerbread, who wrote a lot of amazing stories, and there's one work in progress of her at one point, which is amazing.
Mm-hmm.
She's great. She's great at plot, and I think definitely in Time Immutable, I wrote to her and went, I want this to happen, but I'm not quite sure how it should happen. And she had some great ideas. And same with my witch, who is like amazing on plot. And like I'll say, I'll write to her and go, I don't know what I want. I'm quite sure what would happen here. And she's like, well, what about, you've done this. Wouldn't this be the next natural step? I'm like, yes. That's exactly right. And then also just putting it down, walking away from it. And even sometimes I try what I used to do at university. What's it called? The Pomodoro or something like that. Where you just like force yourself to write for 20 minutes.
Oh.
whatever it's called. Sometimes I do that. I don't care. It doesn't matter what you write or whether you keep it. You just write for 20 minutes and then you just let it all come out of your brain. And sometimes there's something good in there.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. Where does editing come into your process?
I am absolutely horrific on spelling and grammar. It is not a strong point of mine. I make up grammatical things all the time. And I think in my first fic that I posted, like I had like a few people reach out and go, "Oh my God, do you want me to beta your stories? Because you are just making up grammar. None of like this grammar is some wild grammar that you've put in here." And bless them, they were very helpful. So another amazing writer, Toodaloo, used to be my beta on all the fics I did. She was very, very sweet and very kind. Even when she would come back and go, "Wow, do you know what a dangling participle is?" I went, "I don't know what a participle is at all. I'm sorry. I'm sure I learned all this at school, but I don't remember it in any way, shape, or form." And which is also a really great beta. And I used her for Baby More and for PS I Love You, as we're posting week to week. So she does a spelling and grammar overview of the chapter, and also kind of like plot as well, because she's so good at plot. She'll go, "Actually, we've picked up this particular plot point, but I don't think you tied it up at any point in time. So we have to make sure." But yes, editing process is definitely somebody else. I try and proofread it, but me and Google Docs are basically as good as each other. I need someone else to read it because I'm hopeless.
Are Snape and Hermione your one true pairing or OTP?
I think they're probably the ones I like reading the most. Like, I'm not against other pairs unless they're real crazy, like Bellatrix and Harry. I'm not sure I'd be into, because I can't put aside some certain things. And I don't like, for example, I don't like reading Lucius and Hermione or anything like that, because I think like Il, he's got some very particular viewpoints on her that I don't think could be resolved effectively, but not against somebody else liking that. And I think because they were the two most interesting characters for me in Harry Potter, I like reading them being interesting together. I think that the way they sort of interact and talk and the things they have in their background can make kind of very interesting partnerships. And nothing against Ron as a character. As anyone who reads my stuff will know that I don't write Ron as mean or awful or stupid, but I don't think he would have made a good match for Hermione. We'll disagree with JKR on that. But again, I also think that Ginny and Harry's not a great match. And I think she did the women in the book a disservice by just like neatly pairing everybody up in these like heterosexual relationships when it didn't really match with their character. AKA like Tonks, who was this badass aura who like suddenly in one book's like, all I want to do is marry this like emotionally distant man. You're like, oh my, why would she take such an amazing character? But that's her bag. So I would say that it would be very rare for me to write another pair. I think I read a Gilderoy Snape one, which was kind of fun. And I've read some amazing Snape Filch. And like, if anyone hasn't read A Father to the Man, like, get out there, because that is going to blow your mind. And go to my author page. I bookmarked it. It is one of the greatest stories I've ever read. It is so perfectly written. So yeah, I don't mind reading them, but I think for me, it would be basically the only one that I will write. Might as well be selfish and fan. And if I want to read about it, I might as well write it.
Yeah. What do you find most interesting about them?
I think I've gone a little bit into why I found Snape kind of interesting in the book. Hermione, I found a very interesting character in the book, because in a lot of ways, I like that she pointed out things that were wrong, even though everyone made fun of her, like about the house elves being like very problematic, which you can tell that JKR did not agree with her and wrote it like a big joke. But when I read it, I was agreeing with her, going, yeah, like, you go, Hermione, you point out how stupid all these people are, that they're like treating these things terribly. And even later in the book, where she is upset that they're treating Creature so badly, I think she brings a lot of interesting kind of viewpoints to the book, even though she's quite ruthless in a lot of ways. And like I think her spelling, am I saying Marissa? Who's the one that she put sneak on her forehead? Can't remember. You know, the girl
yeah.
So in the book, that's kind of played like a real ruthless like thing that she did. But then if you look at the true nature of it, you say, okay, so all like, this was when Umbridge was in there, this is when Voldemort's basically taking over the Ministry. It's a very dangerous time, and it's a dangerous time for them to be doing the quote-unquote Dumbledore's army. Literally no other person thought to take precautions but her. So everybody was just, yeah, I guess we'll just do this secrets thing and everyone will just be like trustworthy. Okay, thanks, bye. Where she was like, actually, I'm going to put something in place to make sure this is,
Right.
So I don't know. I think, again, I found her character quite fascinating. And one of the more, I think, in-depth characters that accidentally came out through the book. And I think her and Ginny particularly were very interesting sort of badass women characters that then JK just kind of didn't know what to do with. So it was like brushed her hands off, went, and then they got married and had children and the end. And okay. Anyway, and I think that she was obviously very motivated by learning, because you think that like Ron would have grown up with magic, right? So he grew up in a household full of magic, saw people using magic every day. His brothers would have been using magic, his mum and dad. His mum was using magic to like do the dishes and stuff like that. Yet he could not do a spell when he was on the train to Hogwarts. But Hermione had read all her books and did a spell to fix Harry's glasses. So I found that fascinating too, because I thought, again, without meaning to, I think JKR, with both the characters of Snape and Hermione, put forward two people who, despite coming from backgrounds of what they did, ended up in places that, because of their own kind of natures and the way they pushed themselves and stuff like that. Anyway, so I thought those two people together are interesting, could have interesting discussions, and could probably get wrapped up in interesting adventures together.
Do you write about other pairings or fandoms?
Oh, no, I've never done another fandom. And like I said, I think I've only done a Gilderoy Snape one, because I love the character of Gilderoy. Like, I hate him, but he's pretty fun. I mean, I'll never say never, but yeah, we'll see. It's hard too, because once you sort of get comfortable in the head of a character and you think you've got it, it's hard to get in another one. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Do you write original fiction, or have you considered writing original fiction?
I've considered it, I would say. Every now and then I think like, maybe I should write a book. And then I'm like, oh my God. And then I look out in the world at how many books are out there, look out into the world about how difficult it is to write an interesting, compelling, original piece of work, and then find an editor and then like self-publish it or whatever. Oh my God, that's a lot of work. So I think I just get out on my joy in fanon at the moment, which is fine. I do get a lot of joy from it.
That's great. Yeah, so do we. Okay. You often collaborate with the artist My Witch. What do you enjoy most about working with her?
I think we're very similar in a lot of ways, in terms of we find a lot of joy in creating, in the process of creating, and then kind of bringing that to the world, and then laughing and like having fun with other people as they enjoy it. So when I first started, I think, we did the drawing one, the Harry Potter Redux, which was our take on what the books kind of like were or should have been. And we spent a lot of time sort of writing to each other and laughing about, the books and what it should be, and making up things. And a lot of it's quite indulgent, I think, when we work together, because we just spend so much time making each other laugh about things. And I think bringing up Baby Mort was a lot like that. I could write something and send her a chapter, and then she'd be like losing her mind, and then she'd send me a picture and I'd be losing my mind about how hilarious it was, and we'd be laughing about Lucius's face, and then a depressed Snape lying in a pool of sort of milk. So I think I take concrete from her very well. Like, she's really good at providing constructive advice, and I'm quite good at taking it. Like, I don't ever take offense or stuff like that. I think we work really well together. We have a lot of mutual respect for each other's creativity and creative inputs. And I don't know, she's really funny, and she's really smart, and very, 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 very talented. And I quite every time we work together, I kind of feel a bit humbled that she'd take some of her spare time to just do stupid fanon stuff with me. But we actually have a lot of fun doing it, which is good.
Yes.
The only one I think was a bit weird was where we did one for another Snape Fest called, I think it was Happy Birthday. We did a year of I think we talked about in the last podcast,
Yes.
which was like the only one where we both went, well, this kind of ended up being a bit angsty and we didn't even need it to be. Most of the time we have fun.
Even your more serious works have funny moments. Does the humor come naturally to you?
Yeah, I think that's my preferred state of being. I think generally I'm a pretty optimistic person who likes to find joy in even really dark moments in life. And I do think that comes through when I write things, because even when I try and write something serious, I end up something with like a joke in there or people sort of half laughing at each other. And it's definitely a little bit of sort of Snapey bit in there, which suits his character as well, because when you read the books, he always seems to be like laughing at somebody or inwardly smiling or smirking or something like that. It's some ridiculous thing that's happened at Hogwarts or something like that.
You write Snape's inner monologue so well. Is it hard for you to get inside his head?
Well, firstly, thank you. I'm going to say no, and I think that goes back to maybe coming back to Harry Potter as an adult and really having a lot of empathy for somebody who's caught in absolutely ridiculous situations with absolutely ridiculous people and who half the time just thinks these morons, how are they alive? And irritated because you're doing very serious work and other people are either being incompetent. And anyone who's worked in any type of like gone to boring meetings or gone to work where half the people don't know what they're doing or incompetent, or and if I was going to be honest, I think it's particularly easier maybe for women or people of color to write Snape, because we've all been in situations where you're surrounded by incompetent people who have got into positions of power because of things that were beyond their control, aka their gender at birth or their color of their skin and stuff like that. So it's I kind of just take those parts within me that are frustrated with living in a world where the wrong things are recognized or the wrong people are sort of put up and everyone's arguing meritocracy to each other while patting themselves on the back for being like beyond mediocre and that type of stuff. So I think I take a lot of those inner frustrations and experiences with the world and then put them into how I imagine he would have approached what he experienced within the Harry Potter world and beyond, I guess.
Excellent. You sometimes take common tropes like time travel and the marriage lot and put a new spin on them. Do you enjoy bringing a fresh approach to familiar themes?
I actually really enjoy that. And I enjoy writing them myself because it's a challenge to write those sort of tropes in a different way. And also when you write them in a different way, you get to explore kind of like the reasons why people like it. Like the marriage law, there's a lot of questions about why people liked it. People like, it's like, there was only one bed trope, which I have thought about. And I'm like, I have thought about schoolgirl Hermione trope, but I think that's probably beyond me because of the power issues in the relationship, which I wanted. That's kind of why I explored it in Time Mutable as well, because it was schoolboy Snape, right?
Right.
But fascinating how people felt very uncomfortable with the dynamic of her as the adult and him as the student. And we're kind of like in the comments going, they're not going to get together when he's a student. And I'm like, definitely not. But also intriguing that you're very comfortable with it as her being the student, but not when it's him, which I think is great because nobody should be comfortable with that particular power dynamic.
Mm-hmm.
And when someone's like, when you see a fic and someone's writing hashtag she's of age, she's 16, you're like, oh my God, he's 36. Like, whoa, guys, come on. Even in his 20s, it's a bit, even when she's in her 20s, it's pretty dodgy. But I'm sure the feminist within me will shrivel up and die even thinking about things like that. But it also, I think the really powerful thing about Fanon is you have a lot of people consuming it, a lot of young women consuming fanfic. And I also kind of like to put those different ideas, and particularly feminist themes, in material that young women are consuming, because it might make them think differently about things, and it might make them think, actually, I don't have to accept that, or yeah, that is right, that is wrong, the way that is non-consensual, that is wrong, that would be an assumed thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that it's great to have a range of stories for people to read. Some people just like going to Fanon and having like a hot chocolate comfort story, and other people like to go and find something sort of unique to read. So there's something out there for everybody.
Right. In your latest fic, P.S. I Love You, Wizard Society is even more backward than usual, possibly even dystopian.
Oh, yeah.
How do you think that Snape and Hermione's outsider status makes them better equipped to fight the patriarchy status quo?
Slash. Yeah, I think, and of course, I've taken both of them. There would be a lot of other characters that could fit this. Like, I think Luna would also be a good one, but I've chosen those two because those are the ones I like to write about. I think that in all the books, both of them were sort of always kind of outsiders and reminded of their outsider status in a lot of ways,
Mm-hmm.
constantly by characters in the books. And a lot of it was around how they were expected to behave or not behave. I'll never forget, I think there's one bit where in the books there's some rumor about Hermione like not dating Harry or like breaking his heart or something like that.
Oh, yeah.
Like Molly sends her this tiny chocolate and it's really mean. And I thought, oh my God, she's a child. Why would you do this? But, and I think I explored it in Time Mutable, Immutable, in that, like, so she was a muggle born and her parents were obviously muggles. And there was a lot of effort in going to making sure Harry was protected at the Dursleys and then moving him from there. And at no point did anyone consider Hermione's parents or the danger to her.
Mm-hmm.
And I just thought, like, that's so for them, outsider status is something that is conferred upon them in a lot of ways, but also highlighted and emphasized in, like, so Snape is never really accepted as part of the Order of the Phoenix. Like, people are rude to him all the time and quite mean, which is something that he perpetrates as well, because obviously he dislikes most of them and does it for his own sort of maybe selfish, maybe other reasons. And even within the Death Eaters, he's kind of like an outsider there as well. Like, Bellatrix never trusts him.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that makes it, and both of them have a connection to the Muggle world, which they never truly got rid of. Like, Snape was still living in his Muggle father's house, even when he was like apparently like Voldemort's trusted number, whatever he was still living in the house. And randomly that freaky ass rat guy was living there too, which not a lot of questions about that. But unconventional partnerships, you go boys. And I think that, so when I thought about writing this story, one of the tropes I kind of was thinking of was the traditional like ministry remembrance ball. And then I thought, well, if they both had a reason to almost kind of take themselves out of the magical world, that would be something that both of them would feel comfortable doing. So it would be easy for Hermione to go back to her. And same with, obviously, Snape seemed to be very comfortable in the magical world, but he had a lot of connections outside of that he would, and he's a bit of a kind of a survivor. You imagine he would very easily just go like, all right, well, I'm here now and I'll just get along with it. Whereas a lot of other people would struggle to get themselves on their feet if they weren't connected to that world. So I thought I would take both of them and take them out of the magical world and then give them the sight to be able to not be the boiling frog. So as you can see, as the chapters are going on, each year they come in, there's something else horrific that everybody else has just accepted as part of the year. Where for them, they've come in and very, very shocked by it. And also because they're living in the quote unquote muggle world where there's a lot of these types of cultural things outwardly discussed. It's not obviously fixed because there's a lot of massive inequalities in the world, but it's something that people often talk about and it's challenged in a way that it isn't in the wizarding world. So I thought that would be a good kind of adventure for both of them, particularly when you can also balance out Hermione's quite young. She's just come out of the war and she's given up a lot for the war. So if she doesn't keep going, then what is her sacrifices for? As opposed to Snape, who has given up a lot of his life to this. And then I wrote it into the story that he was almost like, thanks for your work. Goodbye. You are no longer required for any of these things that we used to. You're no longer required at Hogwarts. You're no longer required actually in any way, shape or form. Thank you. See you later. Nobody really liked you. You were just useful. That kind of Dumbledore thing. Whereas he's out of it because he's like, I'm sick of it all. I don't want any part of it anymore. Where she's like, I've already done so much. If I give up now, then it's all for nothing. And I wanted that to be an interesting sort of like thing between them as well. Like, when do you give up? When do you keep going?
Yes. Oh, and I also really like that Snape is a preschool teacher.
Oh yeah, I wanted that too, because I said to when I was writing it, I said to Mike, I'm going to make him teach nursery. She's like, oh my God, why? And I said, because I feel that he hated children, but little children are so self-centered and so wild, and they just say things and they just do things. And I think he would actually really respect that. He would respect the full bluntness of a 5-year-old, definitely over the self-indulgent rudeness of a 12-year-old or 11-year-old. Like, they can be really horrible until you have a big fat nose, which will cost 40,000 pounds to fix. But that is literally because they believe that. And he's like, okay, that's cool. I'll go with that.
Mm-hmm. Could you read a passage or two from your work?
I was actually thinking about what to
Uh-huh.
what to read, and I kind of thought maybe I'd read the first few paragraphs from one of the chapters in Time, Mutable, Immutable.
Okay.
Which is where we join, for those who haven't read it, it's joining Snape at the sorting ceremony where Harry Potter and Hermione Granger and Ron Weasley, kind of that cohort, are about to be sorted. And I chose this one because it's got his thoughts on obviously the teachers and on Hogwarts and the kind of shit that I, excuse my French, would like Snape to think about. And tell me when to stop, otherwise I'll just keep going.
Okay.
Severus was buzzed. He didn't know what he was thinking, letting Minerva talk him into a few quick whiskies before the welcoming feast. The witch was losing her mind. He swore she was getting wilder as she aged. Well, she may have always been this wild, but he was finally seeing that side of her. He tried to look stern in preparation for the first years. Minerva had already gone to collect them from Hagrid, which meant the first years may or may not have made it across the lake. Hagrid was not on Severus's list of most responsible guardian for children list. But then again, he wasn't at all either. Actually, neither was Dumbledore. He supposed Minerva was all right, and Filius seemed sensible. Rolanda thought breaking every bone in her body was the standard childhood ritual, so I guess she was out as well. Now, Poppy was normal. Well, Pomona wasn't, but he liked her all the more because of it. So actually, almost half the teachers at Hogwarts probably shouldn't be trusted with children. Well, at least that seemed fairly standard as per his own experience. He drummed his fingers surreptitiously on his thigh. He couldn't wait for the sorting to finish, and we could take his new Slytherins back into the dungeons and put the fear of Snape into them. And then he'd put on the warm and fuzzy so they felt all right about their first night in a gigantic room under the lake with a squid that put its giant eye right up against the window just when the digestive system was preparing to evacuate. He'd already stocked the bathroom shelves of the dormitories with numerous contraceptive and hangover potions. Look, he wasn't in denial about what the first night back consisted of for the older students, but it was better to just stop the pretense he didn't know and just do what he could to stop any unwanted consequences. He looked up and saw Minerva leading a line of small, very nervous children. Oh, Merlin, they got smaller every year. He could see the pointy, pinched face of Draco. Oh, he'd have hell to pay if he didn't get into Slytherin. Snape had even gone to the effort of having a small discussion with the Sorting Hat about it. The hat had been reasonably obtuse, as expected from a magical fashion accessory. He supposed Draco would be given to him to look after, though, largely because of the enormous amount of money Lucius poured into the school. Even the hat was fiscally astute. It knew what made sure Hogwarts bread was buttered. Minerva strode forward to grab the stool. As she picked it up, she winked at him. He rolled his eyes and scowled at her. She placed the hat on the stool, and then, as every year, Severus endured the sorting song. Fuck, it was tedious. It was like when he was a kid and his dad got drunk and told him all about how the world was. It was the same old shit. Blah, blah. Gryffindor's great. Hufflepuff's of sook. Ravenclaws are giant walking brains, and Slytherins insert some type of deviance here. Still, he listened to the song half-heartedly while he fantasized about dessert. The hat crooning its lyrics suddenly drew his attention. Oh, he thought, this year's Slytherins were where people made their real friends, apparently. Interesting. That was new. Maybe there was a little firstie in the crowd just waiting to embrace their Slytherin best friend. He snorted at that thought. Right, sure. The hat finished and everyone applauded, including Severus. He made sure his clap was very slow and deliberate, and he was somewhat pleased when Pomona kicked his shin under the table. He was blaming the whiskey. He wasn't halfway this belligerent Normarie. Well, okay, maybe he was. Oh no, Minerva was up to the bit she loved. The names. He watched her unroll a scroll and put on her most important voice before declaring, when I call your name, you would put on the hat and sit on the stool to be sorted, she said. Abbott, Hannah. Severus watched the girl walk forward and half trip over before reaching the stool. She looks normal, he thought. Hufflepuff for sure. Hufflepuff, the hat declared loudly. Severus smiled smugly. Another thoroughly average girl walked forward and was Hufflepuffed before Severus had even time to have a sip of his wine. Pomona would be very excited to have another direct centre of the bell-coiled student. And on it went until Millicent Bulstrode was called forward. The small girl with the dark hair and serious expression walked towards the hat and eyed it suspiciously before it was placed on her head. She seems sensible, he mused to himself. Slytherin for sure. Slytherin, the hat confirmed. If he was ever decided to quit potions, Severus decided he was definitely going to be the Sorting Hat. Except, of course, it suddenly occurred to him that the whole putting first years inside of him would become very illegal very quickly. He discarded that thought immediately. And then it goes on that for anyone reading the story, that Hermione is sorted and he becomes confused because the last time he met Hermione, she was an adult woman back in his own years at school. And then it becomes a little bit angsty, and I'll leave that for everyone to read. But then he does call out, I think at one stage, Quirrell for his outrageous cultural appropriation for wearing a turban.
Oh, that's good. What are your future plans for Snape?
It was funny. After writing Time Immutable, I really wanted to write another very long story, which is why I wrote P.S. I Love You. And every time I write something, I go, I probably don't know what else I'm going to write. I don't think I'll write anything else. And then I end up thinking of something else and I miss the writing process. Like it's a kind of fun and cathartic and relaxing thing for me.
Mm-hmm.
I have been thinking, like I said, I have been pondering kind of different tropes. I have to definitely leave the enduring purebred culture one alone after P.S. I Love You, because I feel I've probably done it to death. But maybe if I can think of one of the other ones, like I said, one of the other ones, Only One Dead, it seems to be a trope.
Mm-hmm.
Probably won't touch the schoolgirl one again after Time Immutable. Can you think of any other ones? I'm intrigued.
Well, we were just talking about, oh gosh.
Yeah, there's a lot out there.
Well, I'd say Fuck or Die, but that's not really your purview, I don't think.
Do you know, it's really funny. I get really embarrassed writing sex scenes. I find it really embarrassing to write. I don't know why. I don't.
Mm-hmm.
I've tried. Obviously, anyone who's read my stuff will probably go, I just don't write them, and it's not that I have anything against them or anything against reading them. I'm just not very good at them. There was a time when Celery Thesis was writing, and she offered to write them for me. She said, "You know what? If you ever want one, you send it to me. I'll just insert it, and then you can just keep going," which was a very generous offer. I have attempted to write one for my current story. So anyone who's reading that, when you get to it and it's quite weird, then you'll probably go, that's probably why she doesn't write them. But yeah, there's definitely a few ones where I thought, if I was more brave at writing sex scenes, I could probably write a few of these more intriguing ones. Maybe like Potion Mishap or something. That could be fun.
Oh yes.
There's a lot of Potion Mishap ones.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And the other thing, obviously, I enjoy, which I probably would write more of, even though he's a horrific character in canon. I do enjoy writing Lucius Malfoy as to be kind of like so ridiculously vain that it becomes quite hilarious. I think there's a few gift stories I wrote for My Witch where he's just like always taking Snape out for some type of beautification process.
Oh.
And I think I even put some of them in P.S. I Love You, if I was going to be honest. Now I'm thinking about it. So maybe, maybe a Potion Mishap could be fun. I do like a Happily Ever After. Anyone that's read my stories knows I only ever write Happily Ever After. Like, the world is so full of tragedy. I feel that I don't need to add to it, right?
Oh.
I mean, most people like reading angst, and there's other people that do angst very, very, very well. So I will leave that to them as I leave the amazing sex scenes to other people.
Where can we find you online?
I do not connect my fanon life and my real life. So if you do find me online and you have figured out who I am, please pretend to look the other way. But I am on AO3 and I am on LiveJournal. So just under Grooot, feel free to friend me or drop me a line. Everyone made the big move to Dreamwidth when the Ukraine conflict sparked off, because I think LiveJournal is Russia based. But
yeah.
I just have not. I really have not. There's a lot of stuff going on. I just haven't made the effort, so I'm still there. So as long as the Russians aren't hacking the crap out of me, then I'll still be there.
Uh-huh. Okay. And yes, we'll link to your stories and to your life journal.
Oh, thank you very much. And don't hesitate to drop a comment as long as it's not too horrible. Sometimes I laugh when people drop really awful comments in fic. I'm like, why would you?
Yeah.
If you don't like it, just like be quiet. Just be quiet and move on. Someone's written it for free.
I know.
Yeah, but I really like the interaction of fan. That's like the greatest bit of it, right? And one of the things is why even though I've finished my fic, it's posting weekly, is because, well, one, it does give me a first time to do the spag between the week. Well, I say the royal we in terms of my witch does it, and I accept it all. And then she puts an amazing bit of art together. But also in that week, you can have interesting discussions with people where they're like, this is what I think is going to happen, or I found this bit great, or I was confused by this bit, or I'd like to see this, or people may guess at the plots and that type of stuff. And it's one of the things I really enjoy the most about what you can get in the fandom world, which is not the same as an original content author. You can have that that step-by-step interaction with people who mostly, because they're part of the community, come to it with kind of like love and kindness in their heart for authors and the content and stuff. And that's not to say that there aren't people out there that are got some of their own issues. There's someone who leaves some next level hate stuff on my witch's work, which is really not cool. And whoever does that, you just need to really take a good look at yourself and your life choices.
Yes.
Yeah. More plans, maybe. I'll get my way through this one, this fic first.
Well, it's so enjoyable.
Oh, thank you. Yeah.
I just love the new nugget every Tuesday.
Yeah, every Tuesday. Yeah. And yeah, I hope you enjoy the way it goes. I would it sort of hashtag spoilers, but another thing that I wanted to focus on here is how culture is changed and who is the hero in the story and who takes and what does it look like to make decisions and that type of stuff, which I hope are a little bit sort of twisted around in this one as well.
Yeah. Yes, I'm looking forward to just the whole process.
Oh, that's good. Thank you very much for reading.
Snape and Hermione getting through their situations.
Yeah. Oh, another thing I did in that, like a kind of like not really a trope, but something I did in that, which has interested a few people I've noticed in the comments, is I gave Snape a functional adult relationship with somebody else at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
And that is because in a lot of the fics I read, like, he's really fucking awful to Hermione. Like, he treats her really badly. And it's a lot of that kind of like, women need to fix men, or women need to be forgiving towards men, or women need to it's up to women to make a man better and that type of stuff. And I thought that's with the power imbalance already between them about the age. I didn't want to write a story where a very young woman was paired with a much older man, and then it was her kind of like responsibility to just accept if he was like awful to her. So I thought, well, I want him to be in a more equal power relationship at least first. And as part of that, when you're equal power with a woman your age who has like experience and that stuff like that, you learn pretty quickly the acceptable ways to act. Right. And to treat other people, because older women don't put up with that fucking shit from dudes. Mm-hmm. So I think that's definitely why I put a relationship with him. She's called Hannah in the story, and she's like a badass sort of barrister and that type of stuff. And people are like, what's this about? I'm like, this is about him also not only learning how to be a friend to Hermione initially, but also actually this is how functional relationships work, and this is how, you interact with people in a more positive way. Anyway.
Right.
It sounds wild, but that was what I wanted to do as well, because again, I was sick of reading stories where like he's really mean to her, and then the story kind of is like, well, like, shrug, guess he had a shitty upbringing, so it's cool that he's really mean to her. I'm like, whoa. And I think it's a little bit of a spoiler, but ahead in the story, Hermione says, it's not up to me to fix him. It's up to him to bring his best self to the relationship, which I think is an important lesson. It's an important lesson for Snape to read, but also I'd like to think an important lesson for any young women reading it to read.
Oh, so good. Well, Grooot, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you very much. It's lovely to chat.
Yeah. Okay. Take care. You too. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. If you haven't read Groot's amazing writing, run, don't walk to AO3. It's Grooot with 3 O's. We also have links at our website at snapechatpodcast.com. And now for a talk with Sev Snapes and Smiling for Money about their monumental project, the Snapedom Awards. This is Snape Centric. I'm here with Sev Snapes.
Hello.
And Smiling for Money.
Hello.
And we're going to talk about the Snapedom Awards, which they've come up with and have done a great job of picking out the best of the Snapedom. Yes. So how did you come up with the idea for this?
So originally I saw Marauders fans doing on Twitter, and it was very much sort of popularity contest more than anything. It was all about the use rather than what they actually contributed.
Oh.
So I thought, well, why not we do a Snape version, but it's more about the content of the actual individuals. Yeah, and then so I sort of just put a post out saying, would anyone be interested in it? And people had interest. And then Becca and also Alyssa said, do you want any help? So I sort of put a team together.
Snape.
Yes, the snitches, as we call themselves.
The snitches?
Yeah, Snape's bitches.
Oh, I like that. Okay, Snape's bitches. Yeah. Okay. How did you go about the process?
Well, it was kind of a bit of a sort of work in progress as it went. I've certainly never done anything like this before. So it was very much sort of putting the feelers out, seeing who's interested in it, who, what kind of categories they'd want, and then putting the feelers out for nominations. And then once we had enough of those in, getting the votes out as well.
Mm-hmm.
But I do think, if we do it again next year, it'll probably be more of a structure rather than kind of playing it by ear, which is kind of what we did.
You got to learn as you go along when you start something new.
Yeah, exactly. It's kind of a trial run. And then maybe try and do it a bit bigger next year.
Is there something else that you'd like to say about the awards before we kind of get started with saying the winners and stuff?
Well, definitely I couldn't have done it without Becca and Alyssa. I mean, I know I kind of did most of the legwork, but I very much needed them as soundboards. Just tell me what ideas are rubbish, what ideas are good.
Oh. Okay, yeah.
And we were just kind of going, yeah, that sounds great.
Yeah,
do it.
Yeah, go ahead, do it.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah, I definitely want to, put out there that Alyssa was a big part of it as well. Obviously, she's not around on Tumblr anymore.
Oh, is the Snape's Silly Incantations, was it? Was that her?
Yeah.
Oh no. Did she leave for bad reasons or?
Yeah, I think she just deactivated because she just needed a bit of a break.
Uh-huh. Maybe getting too much hassle from antis or something like that.
Yeah, I think she had a couple of nasty people around.
Yeah, there is so much of that going on right now. It's not funny. Oh, I'm sorry that she had to go through that.
Yeah, we are too.
Yeah. Okay, well, why don't we get to the categories and the winners?
Yeah, so the first category that we announced was favourite smutty one-shot, which was won by our very own Sev Snapes with the potion covered. Yeah, and we also had the next two were only on AO3, so I couldn't link them back to Tumblrs, but we had Star Kids Pretty, and then I'm going to try and pronounce this, Snigorochka with 5 times Lupin and Snape should not have had sex at Alder headquarters, but couldn't help.
Oh. Yes, I've heard of that one.
Yeah, I haven't actually read the second two, but the first one was brilliant. I love that one.
Well, thank you. That was actually the first one shot that I ever wrote about Snape, and it was quite a few years ago. So I'm surprised that came up because I didn't think that people cared about it after all this time, but apparently people still like it, which is nice.
Great. So that was the smutty one shot.
Yeah, and then there's favourite not safe for work headcanon post, which again was one of my Sev Snapes with Snape masturbating.
Oh.
And second place with Sev Snapes with Snape's first time. Actually found with the headcanon post categories, I might not do them again next year because they didn't get many nominations.
Uh-huh.
And the ones that were
many.
as wonderful as you are, they weren't. Yeah, there wasn't much variety in what was getting sort of submitted. So I might not do that one again next year. Yeah, and then there was favourite angsty one shot. I'm going to have to try and pronounce this. Vergismanicht, which that one was one of that was Seth City Incantations. So we're not the link on the original post that since her stuff's all gone now.
Yeah.
Then there was also Insomniac Aesthetic, Forgive Me Darling, and Somebody Random 890 with A Real Wizard. Actually, I don't think I read any of those.
Oh.
I read Alyssa's. I think I will have read Insomniac Aesthetics because I've read it. I think everything that they've written, but I don't know the last one.
Yeah, that was another AO3 one.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so next was favorite fluffy one shot, which was Bus Stop, which is by Typing Keys 11, who after getting all these wonderful graphics done by Becca, I discovered actually did have a Tumblr, which was Scribbler Spot.
Oh.
And then Seriously Snape, an extra push, and Bush Viper Cutie with a warm kiss. Bus Stop, I think, was a one shot based on her fic. I think. Yeah, it is. It's based on her fic, which won one of the other categories as well. Yeah, and then favourite Safe for Work headcanon post. Again, Surf Snapes, just absolutely sweeping the board.
I write too many headcanons, clearly.
Yeah, and then Sacred Snape as well with her period pains post. Yeah. But again, like I said with the other headcanon posts, there wasn't a lot of nominations, despite the fact that there are many headcanon posts out there.
There really are. But I feel like there's been less recently, so people aren't like seeing them as much and just picking like old favourites or something.
Yeah. Again, that's one that we'll probably sort of look at doing again next year or not. Oh, the next one's my favourite category. Snape OC Fix. My favourite category because I'm in it. That was Typing Keys 11 again with the first choice. Sure, I hadn't actually heard of it until we did this, so I need to read it apparently.
Yeah.
In the second place, Smiling for Money, Soul of Ice, and then Seth Snapes again with Princess Cosmetics. This is basically the Seth Snapes now.
Yeah, I honestly did not expect nomination, and then I ended up in like a million categories. I don't know how.
You have people who love you.
Clearly.
Yeah. Yeah, it was nice to see another OC fic come out that I haven't actually heard of before. So that's definitely on my to-read list now.
That's part of what it's about, isn't it? Like spreading sort of positivity in the fandom in a way that's like discovering new things.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm finding stuff that you sort of hadn't sort of seen before.
Yeah.
That was Snape and canon character fic. So one of that one was Morbid Much, which is All That You'll Be, which I'm not sure
that was the shit.
Oh, that was Snoomini.
Oh, okay.
And then the runner-up, I've got Bunny Bopper with Creature Comforts, which was Snoopin.
Okay.
And this one, Snegorochka, the Great Hogwarts Christmas Gift Exchange debacle of 1996, which is a nice chunky one.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I mean, like personally, I don't read a lot of canon character stuff myself, so I haven't read any of those.
You're mostly into OCs.
Yeah, or reader inserts, just because I don't think the canon characters deserve him, to be honest.
Oh, okay.
I also agree.
Well, we're actually going to be doing a Snape and OC show, so
sign me up for that one.
And me.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so Reader Fic. That one was Alyssa again. That was Cecilia Incantations with the Black Cat, which was great. And I know she has it saved somewhere because she's told me. I'm going to try and get her to upload it again because it was just very fun. It was a very fun fic.
Wasn't it? But I didn't finish it, unfortunately.
Oh, before it went.
So, yeah, but it was fluffy as well, like a good amount of nice, comforting stuff.
Yeah, and because he was a cat the whole time, it obviously wasn't smutty.
Yeah.
Which I know a lot of people like, that's the main driver, but it was nice to see something that was just a bit different.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then second place was Witch Imagine fanfic, Broken Silence, which I know is a very popular one. Like, again, I've not read it. It sounds like I don't read much, but I really do.
It's impossible to read everything. I try, but yeah, it's impossible.
There's a lot out there now. We were just saying that tonight, that it feels like all of a sudden it's gone from like 5 fan fictions on AO3 to like millions since the beginning of this year.
Oh, wow. By the way, I have been enjoying Soul of Ice.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
So Broken Silence, and then third place was a draw between Insomniac aesthetic with promise, and then also Mismeasured with Stars on the Staircase, which is, I have read and is my favourite, and I absolutely 100% recommend because it's just brilliant.
Great.
And then, okay, so that's all the fan fiction ones.
Do you want me to do a section?
Yeah, do you want to do art because my voice is going?
Yeah. So the first one for the art categories is favourite funny art. So the first, the winner of favourite funny art was Shabet with He Stealed a Toad. And the runners-up were Emily's Cartoons with I See You Shiver and Luna P 999 with Halloween Costume.
I just want to clarify some of these art ones. Obviously, people don't always put titles in; they just kind of put captions. So I just kind of got a title. So some of them I gave them a title. So I hope that people don't mind the titles I've given them.
Description, it's fine. Yeah. And then the next category is favourite not safe for work art, which the winner of that category was The Tales of Prince with Bruises and Scars. And runners up. Oh,
that was a beautiful piece.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like all of the art that got picked out in this was just chef's kiss. Second place, Terpin Simp vlog with Shower Sex, and third place, Chip Artwork with Lust.
Oh, yeah.
And then we're on to favourite meme.
Yes, this was. These were kind of in a random.
So here's another one with Smiling for Money, who came first with Snape's plaque.
Oh, yeah.
Second place, Hermit with Chest of My Treasures, and third place, Top Notch Tomfoolery with Snape's leg.
I was surprised that plaque one took off so much as it did, to be honest.
It was genius.
I'm not sure I even tagged it, I think I just put lol, it's Snape's plaque. But yeah, the original picture is someone's memorial plaque on a bench. It says in memory of whoever who hated this park and everyone in it.
Yeah.
And I was just like, Snape.
That is so Snape. Snape vibes.
Oh, totally.
So the next category is favourite angsty art, and we had a draw for this one. So the first place goes to Snape Queen 7 with Don't Forget, and also Coat and Tails with Regret, which rhymes.
No!
Ooh!
It's meant to be.
Second place, Cappy Snape art with Snape in the Bathtub, and third place, Suffer My Displeasure with Coke with Memories.
Uh-huh. Actually, Snape in the Bathtub was a piece that I commissioned from Cappy.
Oh, very good.
I think I reblogged that the other day, actually.
Yeah, because you were talking about Snape in the bath.
As I often do.
Yes, because you love Snape in the bath.
Yeah.
It's my twin passions, baths and Snape. Favourite fluffy art. So that goes to Robe and Wand with Old Books, and then second place, Mikori with Happy Papa.
This was another one that we didn't get a lot of nominations for, hence why there's only 2, because we didn't even have more than 2 nominations. So I think again next year we really need to push the nominations.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I feel like there's a lot of fluffy art out there. So, yeah.
Oh yeah.
Teen Snape art. So the first place, I'm not sure how to say this. Tui, I think, yeah. With Puberty. Second place, Sicarina with Young Severus Snape. Is that not someone that's on Tumblr?
No, that was one on DeviantArt.
Okay. And then third place was a draw. Natso no Prinsu with What Have You Done, and Sneverus Sape with 2 Scrappy Kids.
Oh yeah.
And then favourite Professor Snape art. First place, Cappy Snape art with First Day. Second place, Suffer My Displeasure with Smoking Snape. And third place, Serpenera with Bearded Snape.
which was dedicated to you.
It was dedicated to me, actually, yeah. She really wanted me to love Bearded Snape, and I ended up loving Bearded Snape. So.
Well, when in doubt, you're going to love a form Snape.
Well, exactly. Favourite Snape OC art, My Obscure Imaginarium with Pensieve.
Yeah, which actually was a commission for the first choice, which was the OC fic winner.
Ah, okay.
Fun fact.
Oh.
Second place, Terpin Simp blog with In the Forest. And third place, Pangolin 2B, commission open currently, with Snape Saves Abby.
Yeah, so those last 2 were my commissions. So I was quite pleased to see those getting votes.
Yeah, they were lovely pieces, actually. So, favourite Snape and canon character art. First place, Shabet with Severitas Playing. Second place, Nikori with Snooner in Sunny. Snooner in Sunny. And third place, B-Box Illustrations with Babysitting Draco.
How did you say that?
Which one?
Severitus.
Severitus.
Interesting.
Is that not how you say it?
I don't know. I always pronounced it as Severitus.
Ah, okay.
But
a little flourish there on the eye.
Severitus.
Is it? Where does that come from?
I don't know.
It's like I never managed to figure out how that word is put together.
Yeah, I don't.
I just accepted
obviously, the Sev and the us are from Snape, but like,
what's the it?
Yeah, where's the itch come from?
We're on to favourite literary analysis. So first place is Pet Genius with A Complex and Many Layered Thing.
Oh yeah.
Second place, Ashes and Hackles with The Abandoned Boy and His Problematic Fathers, Snape with Voldemort and Dumbledore. And third place, The Witch's Son with Something Endearing About Snape. I like this one, Destroyer of Snaters. And so first place, Moonlight Dancer 26. Second place, Half-Blood Prince's Crown. And third place, Severus-ish. And then funniest blog, first place, Severus-ish. Second place, Half-Blood Prince's Crown. And third place, Some Snape Fan 2.
I actually got a nomination for funniest blog. No, it's just like, that's... yeah, are you sure about that? You sure you would put me in there?
Yeah, you're like naturally funny. So now we're on to a category of like Snape, the man himself.
Yeah.
Oh,
So the first one is book scene that should have been in the films. And the first place was The Goblet of Fire pajama party on the stairs.
I hope everyone is happy that I called it that. Pajama party on the stairs.
I love that you called it that.
oh yes.
I think we all know what scene that refers to, because I mean, we got to see Snape in that nightgown.
And second place, Snape going apeshit in the hospital wing in Prisoner of Azkaban.
Yes.
And third place, the full flight of the prince scene. Yeah, those are all good scenes.
Yeah, and also shout out to everyone in the vote who wrote in all of the above. It was like 3 or 4 people who did that.
Mm-hmm.
Right, so here we go. Snape's funniest moment, and the winner of that was Ghosts Are Transparent.
Yes.
Second place was Would You Like Me to Do It Now, or Would You Like a Few Moments to Compose an Epitaph?
Yeah.
And then third place was a draw between, this is quite a long one, Potter, when I want nonsense shouted at me, I shall give you a babbling beverage, and Crab, loosen your hold a little. If Longbottom suffocates, it will mean a lot of tedious paperwork, and I am afraid I shall have to mention it on your reference if you ever apply for a job. And that drew with, or maybe, said a very cold voice right behind them, he's waiting to hear why you didn't arrive on the school train.
So many gems.
That's it.
Yeah, that's
it. That was all of them.
Oh, wonderful. Okay. So it sounds like you're considering doing it next year.
Yeah, definitely. Like I said, I definitely feel like this year was like a trial run. I've noticed the blog that's doing the Snape Big Bang, which, by the way, I love that it's being called the Snape Bang.
Yeah.
Snape Bang. Yeah, I'm really liking the way that they're sort of promoting at the moment. So they've got a schedule, they've published the schedule, and they're sort of reposting their advertising posts quite frequently. So I think probably next year we'll probably do something similar like that, as in plan exact dates when things are going to open and close.
Oh, that's a good idea. Yeah.
Yeah, just to help motivate people to get stuff in. And then, if we also sort of do the multiple posts as well, that'll hopefully help to sort of keep people aware of it.
And get the word out a bit as well. Because I think, it's like if we reblog it, that's just us. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's kind of just coming from us, and we're the ones that are running it anyway.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I think the 3 of us all managed to get a fair amount of nominations, because a lot of the people nominated were our followers.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it kind of made sense that we were all getting nominated like that. But yeah, obviously we didn't do it as a celebration of ourselves.
No, not intended.
No, but you're very talented.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, we definitely wanted to try and sort of celebrate everyone and give an opportunity to see different different arts and fics that hadn't really been brought to people's attentions before.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, that's always good.
I definitely think we're succeeding there in some way. There are definitely some out there that I've discovered that I didn't know about before.
Yeah, same. Yeah.
But I definitely think there's scope for a lot more.
Yeah. And if you by this time next year, they'll be so much more created as well that we'll be able to celebrate through it.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that latest art that I commissioned, I'm definitely nominating that next year, like every art category.
Yeah, yeah, it's gorgeous.
Sure. Okay. All right. I don't know. I was thinking, I don't know if you heard the last show, but alwayssnape.com has just launched.
Yes, I did see a couple of posts about that.
I was wondering if something with them, I don't know, if people could go to a site and have a form or something.
Yeah, that definitely helps. That's another thing that sort of struggled to figure out what was the best way to do it, was getting the nominations in.
Oh, sure.
My biggest fear was that, because what happens on the Twitter nominations and stuff a lot is that people just keep submitting the same thing over and over again.
Mm-hmm.
So I wanted to kind of avoid that by having people have to do it in the Ask box on their own accounts.
Okay.
I think maybe in retrospect that didn't work so well. So we'll need to sort of try and find a way to make a bit of a happy medium with that.
Yeah.
Sure. Well, we will have links, and I sure appreciate your time. So Snapes and Smiling for Money.
Thank you for having
Yes,
us.
thank you.
You bet. Okay, take care.
Thank you, you too.
All right. We will soon have a page for the Snapedom Awards. It's a work in progress. And now here's a message from Megs about purity culture.
Hi fandom friends, it's Megs here with a very important announcement. I'd like to thank the HP Fanfic Writers Guild for compiling and sharing the following information, which deserves to reach as many of us as possible. Snape Chat and Care of Magical Shippers stand 100% behind this message and encourage the practices mentioned to keep our fandom family safe. We love you and we want you all to stick around. Over the past few years, there has been a palpable uptick of harassment, threats, false accusations, and even doxing creators in the Harry Potter fandom. Authors have been attacked for everything under the sun, from the content of their fics to their personal information, such as their age, race, career choices, and more. I've personally witnessed this, and I'm sure many of you have as well. Sadly, it's only gotten worse. Ultimately, these purity police have been successful in chasing creators entirely out of fandom. Some creators have removed their entire catalog of works, and they are no longer posting their works publicly. It's heartbreaking, and we fear there may be more if we allow this behavior to continue. If you want to know how to help the cause to fight purity policing, either yourself or your friends, here are some ways to get involved. Stand with the Jegulus authors and join their No Post November movement. Though originally centralized around James Potter/Regulus Black works, consider showing your support for fandom by not posting during the month of November. Find the original post on Fuckboy Regulus's Tumblr page or the No Post November tag. Other ways to shut purity culture down include 1. Locking your stories to AO3 members only, monitoring all your comments, and deny anonymous commenting. Delete any inbound comments on your works or social posts that encourage or condone purity policing. This may be for your own sanity, but it still cuts their movement off at the knees. 2. Publish morally ambiguous content with reckless abandon. This year, HB Dead Dove December is encouraging the creation and posting of Dead Dove works throughout the month of December. You can find more information at hp-deaddovedecember.tumblr.com. 3. Speak up. Tell people you don't approve of purity policing and call it out when you see it, especially in spaces where it runs rampant. We do recommend protecting yourself. Utilize a fandom account that cannot be traced to your personal identity. Leave kudos and comments and otherwise support commonly purity police works. All our stories are important. They have meaning because we made them. We don't need to justify their existence. They belong here, and so do we. Learn more about purity culture and its dangers at fanlore.org/wiki/purity_culture_in_fandom. Stay safe, support one another, and above all, keep creating.
There are so many ways to curate your own experience, with tags, blocking, and other things. There's no reason to go after another fan because you don't like the content they create. If you don't like it, don't read it. And your kink is not my kink, and that's okay. Even if these sound cliche, they are absolutely true. And there you have it. Thanks again to guest Grooot, Smiling for Money, and Sev Snapes for appearing on the show. Thanks also to Megs for recording the PSA about purity culture. Check out our FicRecs page on our website at snapechatpodcast.com for links to Groot's wonderful stories. There's also a separate page for the Snapedom Awards. I'm still working on it as of this recording. You can also go to their blog at snapedomawards.tumblr.com. Like us on Facebook, follow us on Tumblr and Twitter, email us or leave a voicemail. We'd love to hear from you. Many thanks to Nix for her continued work on our website at snapechatpodcast.com. Be sure to check out Care of Magical Shippers podcast. Thanks for listening. Until next time, stay Starky.